What's happening, YouTube? Thanks for tuning in. If you've been 3D printing for a while, you've probably heard countless people tell you to always make sure your filaments are kept dry. But is it really that important to make sure your filaments are always kept dry? Stay tuned, because in this video, I'm going to tell you if it is. Well guys, to give you the short and quick answer, yes, it absolutely is important whether or not you keep your filaments stored in a dry environment. So has this ever happened to you? You're printing fine for weeks and weeks on end without a single issue. All of a sudden, all of your prints are failing and you can't seem to figure out why. Whatever the cause might be for these failures, if you don't know just how important drying your filament is, you might end up wasting a whole ton of time troubleshooting the wrong issues and misdiagnosing your machine. So it seems so simple, right? If it's really just as easy as keeping your filament dry, then why is it so hard for people to do that? Well, I actually think that's probably one of the biggest causes to why it doesn't actually get done as much as it should, or it often gets neglected. It just seems like such a meaningless task that doesn't really seem too important that you might just shove it off to the side and not really worry about it until you start having some real issues. So if you're new to 3D printing, or have just never really seen the true difference between what dry filament and wet filament looks like as it's extruded from the hot end, I'm going to show you right now. So basically, I had some gray PLA lying around and went to run a print and noticed it was extruding very moist. So I just extruded a little bit from the hot end and I unloaded that spool. I put it in my dryer, let it dry overnight, and then did the very same thing in the morning just to get the comparison, and these are the results. Okay, so before continuing this video, I actually have another filament giveaway for you guys. Now, this filament giveaway is actually going to have two winners, and I'll be giving away two different spools of filament. Now, the first spool of filament I'll be giving away is going to be a spool of ERYONE Rainbow SIlk PLA filament. Now, this is just your standard spool of silk PLA, and it actually goes through the entire color spectrum, which is pretty cool. But I've only ran like 10 grams of it. Just rainbow filaments are not my thing. So for the second spool of filament I'll be giving away, it's going to be a spool of PRUSAMENT PLA, and this one is, you got that? Alright, so this one is PRUSAMENT PLA Galaxy Black. Now those of you who don't know about PRUSAMENT, I'm going to link my other PRUSAMENT giveaway in the description below, and check that video out, you guys, because there's some pretty cool info on this filament. So to my left, you see the dried PLA extrusion. Now, as you could tell, this was done, by the way, on a 0.4 millimeter nozzle. So as you could tell, all of these extrusions are very smooth, very uniform, and very consistent. It just looks very nice, and the picture speaks for itself. And to my right, you'll see the true difference when you have a spool that hasn't been properly dried. Now, you could see all of these little tiny bumps that are caused from the air bubbles when the water evaporates as it comes out of the hot end. And you got to really ask yourself, what kind of extrusions would you rather your 3D print be made out of? The ones to my left or the ones to my right? If you print with a spool that has not been dried properly, here's what you're going to experience. Your part's going to have significantly weaker layer-to-layer adhesion along the Z-axis. You're also going to see a very rough surface finish, because those bubbles you saw on the extrusions, those are going to be visible and present on the exterior of your print, and that's just not going to look nice. And on top of that, even if you do get a printed part, your part structurally is not even going to be as strong as it would be if the filament was just dry. So you guys get the picture. Like I said before, I feel like this issue is usually neglected by some people because, as I said, it just seems so simple that it's probably just not that important. But aside from that, it's definitely a lack of accessibility to the proper tools. Now, in order to properly dry 3D printing filament, you have to heat it to a temperature slightly below its glass transition temperature. And in order to do that, you need an oven that's capable of reaching extremely low temperatures, which most people would assume they can just achieve with their standard household oven in their kitchen. But the sad truth to that is most standard household ovens will not be able to go to a temperature that low, let alone maintain a stable temperature below 200 degrees. And most filaments, to be properly dried, have to be around, not around, but below 180 degrees Fahrenheit. So commercial ovens or cook and hold ovens can actually achieve temperatures as low as 60 degrees Fahrenheit. But the problem there is they're insanely expensive, and unless you have some kind of a connection to a restaurant or somebody in the manufacturing industry, you might not be able to have one of these readily available. Luckily, there are numerous options available now that won't break the bank. So I'm just gonna show you two filament drying solutions that I personally recommend. Now, there's plenty of others out there, guys. You could always do research on some DIY projects for it, but check these out. The first one I'm gonna show you is called the Print Dry, and it's available on matterhackers.com.
Alright guys, so this is the Print Dry filament drying system, and you could find this on matterhackers.com. Now, this is a go-to for many people because it's very easy to use, it's simple, you could store up to 2 filament spools on it, and it's not really that expensive. Now, what it is, it's pretty much like a repurposed food dehydrator, and you have a dial that you could set a temperature with, and if you scroll down on their website, they have a little chart that shows you some recommended drying times along with temperatures, and these temperatures you could set right on this device. So it's pretty much straightforward, nothing much more to that. And this is $125. I understand that might be a little too expensive for some people, and I'll show you a little trick. If you go to Amazon and you search, if you search filament dryer, it brings you to this. Well, it actually brings you to all these, but if you scroll down a little bit and you go right here, Rosewill countertop portable electric fruit dehydrator machine, whatever, you get the point. And basically, I'm telling you, this is the same exact thing. The only difference is, you know, the 3D printing official one, they obviously modified the lid, they added an extra shelf for the other spool that you could hold. But something tells me that if you bought this, you could take all those inner trays out and you could probably just run it with 1 spool of filament. And this might be worth trying, and even if it doesn't work out the way it is, it's Amazon, you could just return it. So $34.99 if you want to just run 1. It has the same exact temperature setting, so this is definitely a good option for those of you who don't want to spend even $100. If you guys want to be official and buy the one that holds 2 spools and you find this more useful for you, then definitely pick up the one from Matterhackers.
Alright, that was the Print Dry sold by matterhackers.com. Now, if you have a little bit of a higher budget and you need a little more storage room, I'm going to recommend the device I actually purchased for my own filaments at work, and it's called the Stat Pro, and here it is.
Okay, so this is the Stat Pro 3D printing filament dry cabinet. Like I said, I use this to manage all of my materials at work that I print with, and I definitely recommend this highly if you're running a lot of printers or you just have a lot of materials that you want to manage and dry all at once. Now, this does have some features that I don't really use, but as you can see, there's a spool that you could adjust the position of vertically, which is pretty cool, and you're really only going to use the spool if you take advantage of the filament output ports that are on the back. As you can see here, you could run Bowden tubes from here to your hot end or whatever you want to do, which is a cool feature. I personally don't need it, so I actually don't have the spool installed, and I just have a bunch of spools stacked on top of each other in there. Could probably fit between 10 and 15 spools at once, which is pretty cool. The biggest feature that I like about this is it keeps the filament at a relative humidity lower than 20%. Now, you could look up a bunch of camera gear cabinets, and those essentially work the same way, but all the ones I found, while they were cheaper, they only kept the relative humidity below 35%, and for my nylons and stuff like that, I definitely like my filament to be drier than that. Maybe I'm overdoing it, but so far this thing has worked very well for me, and I definitely recommend it. It does come in a little pricey, $375. I believe the shipping was another $50 or $60 on top of that, but if this is in your budget and you have a lot of materials that you need to dry, this is definitely the choice for you.
Like I said, those are not the only two options for you guys to go with, so go out there, do some research, because there are a ton of solutions to drying your filaments. Now, let's quickly go over storage. A lot of people seem to think that you can just get your filaments, throw them in an airtight container, and add some desiccants. let them sit overnight, and then the next morning you'll have a dry spool of filament. Now that's actually a common misconception. It doesn't quite work like that. So what actually has to happen is you can store your filament with desiccant in an airtight container, but you can only do that once you actively dry the filament. The desiccants are only going to prevent further moisture from going into the filament, as they will absorb all of the moisture that's present in the environment. But for you to actually draw the moisture out of the filament, you have to dry it actively using one of the techniques I mentioned. Always remember, guys, every type of 3D printing material is going to have different recommended drying settings. So make sure you do the research for the specific material that you guys have and apply the right settings when you go to dry your own spools. Alright, so to enter that filament giveaway, all you guys have to do are 3 things, very similar to the first giveaway. Like this video down below. If you're subscribed to the channel, you've already done the second thing. If not, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now. And the third thing you have to do is go in the comment section below and type, "Give me that filament." Thanks for watching this video, you guys. I hope you liked it. Please feel free to post in the comments below about what you did like or what you didn't like about it. If you did like this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing to my channel for future videos. Now, if there's any other content you guys would like to see specifically, please drop that in the comments below as well. And I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.